environment, and also understanding that you're coming into a person's home. So all of these things were prerequisites in order to prepare for the trip. So I did a lot of that. Andrew was in constant contact with me, and that kind of prepared. I did a lot of fundraising. I had a lot of people support me, so that was also a big part of it. And then understanding what I was going to get myself into. So going into Liberia, we were going to a place called Salala, which is kind of considered the bush. So no air conditioning, no luxuries, just really going and doing something pure and selfless. So now I want you to go with me to the airport. I'm going to show you my first video that I did when I was in the airport and what I felt, and then we'll kind of go from there. Hi, this is Kendra. I'm going to do a video journal of how I felt starting my first missionary trip. It is Thursday, November 1st. I am at the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, and I'm here with 40 other members of New Life Church, and we're going to go over to Liberia, to a city called Monrovia, and we're also going to go to Ghana. Right now, I'm excited, I'm not nervous, and I hope to embrace this experience and use it as a life-changing and life-altering as far as decisions that I make in the future and how I look at things and how I view them. All right, I'll keep you posted. Alright, so that's my first video entry, and essentially, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted it to be a life-changing, but I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. So in the airport, we went from Atlanta to New York, and then from New York to Ghana, and then from Ghana to Liberia. So that was a lot of traveling. Now, to be honest with you, I had my first emotional kind of moment where I was like, hey, I am on my way to Africa when we were in New York. And it became a little overwhelming because as an African American, it's a lot to do with our heritage and our history and finding out where we actually came from. And although I couldn't trace the lineage specifically to Liberia or to Ghana, it just made me feel like this was an epic journey that I needed to take as a person just to understand who I was and even where I came from. One of the most beautiful parts about being in Africa was seeing people who looked just like me, same hair type, same skin color, and just relating to them in their own environment. So all of that, and I'm not really even an emotional person, just kind of choked me up because I really wanted to be in the moment. I have a 3-year-old son, and I didn't call home one time. I figured he was good, but I needed to be there in the moment. Another part of the journey was a spiritual journey. So my mind races 100 miles a minute. I'm always trying to figure out something, do the next thing, but I wanted to be still and let God work with me. I feel like I had reached kind of like a roadblock where I couldn't plan the next step. I had to let go and let God. A lot of times when I talk, I say I, but I need to say that it's God that's doing all of this. So for me, going to a place like Africa and just being quiet was going to be a task for me. Going to a place like Africa and being around Christians, like true Christians, and not people just playing being Christian. These are people that are actually about to do God's work, like hitting the floor running. So that was really important to me. And then I wanted to make sure that it's like one of those monumental things. How do you make sure that you capture this moment and not let it pass you by, and that you really do what you need to be and help people and inspire people and not make it the Kendra show, make it more of God's mission and make sure that I'm there for them. All right, so we got on a long bus and we were traveling, so I'll show you the next one, the next clip. Okay, so this is me riding, and we're going to Liberia. We're headed to the place that we stayed, which is called the Oasis. Now, it wasn't anything like an oasis, but for naming's sake, we'll call it an oasis. So what you're going to hear is the pastor will come in and he's going to talk about a couple of things, but just look at the road, look at the vegetation, look at the people, look at just the landscape in general.
And they hire people from Liberia, and they live in the houses and work in the Firestone plant, making the tires that we use in America. They get the rubber from the rubber tree. The sap is actually rubber, so this is sort of like the Firestone project.
Firestone, and Firestone is one of the biggest places. When you look at the board, and I'll go ahead and I'll circulate some of the boards as I talk. I don't want y'all to get distracted, but I want y'all to be able to see it all. The board will tell you about Firestone, right? So they have a lot of rubber trees, and that's one of the ways that they have a lot of their resources. However, as you heard, a lot of the wages aren't fair. A lot of the people live in these compounds. So again, one of the parts of the preparation for the trip was understanding what type of environment, what type of wages, making sure that we're not flashy. And one of the other things that I had to learn was even how we talk to people. A lot of times you go someplace, you want to call somebody your friend. But if you say that you're someone's friend, then that means that you're going to help take care of them. A lot of times they may want to call you mama, right? So if you're someone's mom, then naturally you have an obligation to take care of them as well. So making sure that we didn't do that, also making sure that we didn't create any kind of discrepancy within the community. Meaning that if there was somebody that I really felt close to or somebody that I connected to, making sure that I didn't give that person a trinket or money, because then that could cause havoc in that particular community. So making sure that although you go there, you want to help everyone, to do it in such a manner where it's more organized and it doesn't create any kind of risk in that particular community. So when you look at the particular boards, the first one that's going around just talks about the people, the culture, the food, some of the things that we ran into. In the back of that one, because all of them are two-sided, the back of this one will show you some of the houses, right? So you'll see the Firestone, you'll see the rubber trees. So I took over 1,000 pictures. And since there's no way to show y'all 1,000, I did 3 boards front and back to try to give you a snippet. But at the same time, I will invite everyone to kind of view my website that shows you a little bit more of the pictures. All right, so another video that we'll look at is just some interesting facts about Ghana and things that I learned. Alan Peterson, he's going to tell you about how people get gas in Nigeria. I'm sorry, Liberia. I had to keep the humor. So did everyone hear that? It's just the way that they kind of cipher gas. And then we'll go to this next fact, and then we'll go on to the, we're recording back with Alan. We have cool fact number 4. What was the fact that you didn't share with us, Alan? Can y'all hear? Longer hair. Yeah. Okay. So we didn't know that. So everybody has short hair. But if you drop out and come back in, you don't have to cut your hair again. You still have to cut your hair? You have to keep it a certain length? So did everyone hear that? So a lot of the girls, when they go to school, they have to cut their hair. A lot of times it can create a kind of risk within the school if you have longer hair, or even the same way where people wear uniform nowadays. They want everyone to be uniform so that they can acquire and get the same knowledge, and you're not distracted by the way that you look, what kind of clothes you have. And in Liberia, people have to go to school. One of the great things about the trip was we had it was a huge missionary trip, but there were a lot of different components. There was an education component, there was a medical clinic that included general medicine, OBGYN, pediatrics, they had an eye doctor, and they also had a dentist. On top of that, we also did education, and we went to an orphanage, we taught kids, we had a seminar, and so we really tried to touch the community on a lot of different levels. On top of the spiritual part, there was an evangelism team, and there was a preacher's conference. So when we really immersed ourselves into the environment, it was really trying to hit a community on all different levels, not just providing one thing, but trying to see if you had a gift, how can you inspire, how can you affect these people's lives, and how can you do it in a manner that was kind of conducive to what they needed. So the first part that I was in was called the education conference, and so hence my second board. The back of this board tells you about the education conference, and what we did was It was a conference that had over 250 different instructors, principals, teachers from all over Bond County. So this was a great opportunity for me just to have a conversation. It wasn't about trying to say that the Western way is a better way. It was saying that this is the way that we try, maybe this is the best practice, and why don't we have a conversation about what you're doing, what we're doing, and how we can come together. One of the things that was really interesting to me was people across the world had the same issues. They talked about teachers not getting a fair wage. They talked about the distance. A lot of these people have to walk, and not walk a mile, walk like hours, like 2 to 3 hours to get to school. So that's a level of commitment. One of the things that I talked about with a lot of the educator was that everyone wants to feel important. So a lot of times when you look around and you look at the situation of the conditions in Liberia, you say, well, how do these people have hope, right? Like, they don't even have the same opportunities. Are they exposed to the certain things? How do you make someone feel like they're just more than what their circumstances and what the conditions around them? To me, it starts with education. So to be a teacher in an environment like this allows people to have a gateway. It's saying that this is something that, you can control. You can't control where you were born, right? We're blessed to be born here, but we could have been born somewhere else. So because we have different opportunities allotted to us, we have to maximize them. And when you go to a place like Liberia, you really want to instill in everyone that you're important, you're valuable, you have something that you can contribute. And even being a woman, they have their first president that's a woman. Her name is Ellen Sirleaf, and she actually became the president in 2005. She got reelected, and she's Harvard graduated. She's an economist, and she also has a lot to do with finance, but she has her stuff together. So it lets women know that if you too can aspire to be something more. It's kind of like, I think, the significance of Barack Obama. A lot of us see him when we see ourselves. A lot of us see that, and we know that we are the ones that maybe put some of the boundaries in ourselves, and we can supersede our environments, and we don't have to be a product of our community. Maybe we can strive to be more. So I think that that was a very instrumental conversation that I had with a lot of the instructors. Everyone wanted to participate. We also had what was called the Education Conference, in which we gave out a lot of free stuff, because who don't like something free, right? Everyone was really engaged, and they really appreciated that as well. So the Education Conference was one way that I gave back. Another facet that I did was general medicine. So I know nothing about medicine, but when you have an open heart and a willing spirit to just jump in and do whatever you can do, you learn a lot. So I worked with triage, and I worked with I worked with a doctor named Dr. Tober, and if you look at one of the boards, it says, free clinic. The clinic was free. One of the most overwhelming things that we saw, people lined up. When they knew we were there, they came and they waited for days. People with their kids, people that were elderly, people from all over knew that somebody was there who cared, so they came, and they came in big numbers. So it just made you have a feeling of overwhelming, I don't even know, it's like appreciation, gratitude, humbleness, a feeling of being blessed to be able to help somebody in that condition. Even if I didn't have the skill set, if I was willing to just show up and do whatever someone asked me to, it was just like whatever you need me to do. So that experience in itself is something that a lot of us feel like we can't do, but you can do if you just step outside of your comfort zone. All right, so I'll show you a couple of the spaces that we had the clinic in. Okay, this is the space that we'll be doing the medical triage and ministry in. It's a big open space. So we turned that space essentially into a full-blown clinic. All right, this is the library that we're going into. It's a really cool space, a nice clean building. It's open for people to come and enjoy. There are lots of people to read. It's a very clean, subtle environment, lots of chairs. And as you can see, it's compartmentalized, right? A lot more shelving for the books that we plan to bring. Okay. So there's one other big component of the missionary trip. A lot of times people say, well, don't just paint it and make it look all glorified and everyone should sign up. There are also struggles that you have to endure. So one of the major things that we got set back on the trip was we were waiting for what's called a container. The container was a 40-foot large container, the type that you ship, and it had got packed probably in the summer, like around June of this year, and it was sent over. And so there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of politics, but nonetheless, when we hit the ground, there was a team that had came prior to us that Andrew was a part of. They were trying to make sure that everything was good to go so that when we got there, we can open up the clinic, we can have the stuff, and we can service people as many as possible. But the the container was in the shipyard, but we didn't have access to the container. It took 3 days that we were there before we essentially got the container open. And what happened in that time was fellowship, it was love, and we started the education conference with nothing more than what we came with, which might have been like a binder. So it also let me know, it was kind of a testament to people's strength, it was a testament to what you can do when you don't have your stuff. A lot of us are connected to our stuff. A lot of us feel like our stuff makes us, that it defines us, that we have to have it in order to project and to be good. Not having any of that stuff, I was able to go along with the whole education team and do a full-blown seminar. We talked to all of these people, we had our stuff together, and we just had a conversation. I think that that's one of the most innate things that you can have, is just relating to people, talking to them on a level, but not being pretentious and making sure that everyone gets something from it. So we were able to, we even started the clinic. We started the clinic in that area with hardly nothing. So that was, again, it tested all of us, but it was a way that I think God wanted us to start it so that eventually when the stuff came, it made everyone more appreciative. The pharmacy got a little backed up, but we were still able to go, and I think we serviced, was it over 1,000? Over 1,000 people. So imagine not having anything, running a full clinic. We even had tickets. So again, this is what people had in their carry-ons. There were little red tickets, and we just started to pass those out. So people would see someone, they would take their ticket to the pharmacy to come back and try to get it filled once we had the medicine. So it was a lot of just a workaround. So again, it's a testament to the human spirit that when your back is against the wall, the only person who will miss defeat is you. If you need to figure it out, you can figure it out. If you're somewhere else and the conditions aren't comfortable, then make them comfortable and still be conducive to what you need to do. All right. So I will show you, we went to church. Everybody know we had to go to church on Sunday. And church in Africa was cool. So this is a little bit of the service. Church was a very uplifting and good experience. One thing that you go to Africa and you look for is the music, right? I think that people connect and they talk through the music. So being there and worshiping with people. And again, one thing that the evangelism team said that really stood out to me is when they would go and they would pray for people, they would ask, what do you want me to pray for you? And the people would say like one thing. If you ask any of us, like, what do you need or what do you want or what can I pray for you? We will take 15, 20 things easy. But people who have so little even still ask for so little. And we have so much, and we shouldn't require as much, but we do. So being humble, like if you lived in a house and it didn't have a door, you would think, let me pray for a door. But that wasn't even what the people were trying to pray for or what they were asking for. It was something much more simple than that. So it really made you look at your life and try to put everything into perspective and to just realize the greatness and the goodness you can do. As a person, you can have such a great and a profound impact on other people. It just makes you want to maximize your life and do what you can do. All right, so the next part that we're going to go to, are y'all ready to go to Ghana? Yeah. Is everybody ready to go to Ghana? All right, so we're going to go to Ghana. We're going to have a little fun. And then what I really want to do is just open it up for conversation. There is no way I can simplify or even hit on everything that I wanted to talk about. It's so many different layers, because even when I thought about, what do I say to y'all? I didn't even know it was just so many different things, and I wanted to do the journey justice. I wanted to pull back the layers. I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to just tap with you and say, like, even a person like me, I can go do missionary work. Like, it's really that simple. All you have to do is just have your heart is in the right spot. And when you know it's not about you and it's about a greater purpose, and we all get from people. Like, I don't stand before you because people haven't helped me. I am, I guess, the epitome of people helping and reaching back and doing something or seeing potential in me. So if I can go and inspire, talk to somebody, make you feel good about yourself, I can definitely do that. Now, the one thing I haven't done before we go to Ghana, I didn't tell y'all about my name. So my Liberian name is Gorma. Can y'all say Gorma?
Gorma.
It's a beautiful name. So when I started, it was like day one when I went to the education conference and we were signing people up. A guy came to me. He said, "Are you from Liberia?" So I'm thinking that's kind of like a trick question. I'm like, well, maybe. I mean, you know, I'm thinking like it's kind of flattering, like I look like the people. So I'm thinking I may be from Liberia. But he said that you look like a Gorma. And I said, well, what is a Gorma? Still kind of figuring out if it was something good, I'm going to be a Gorma. If it's something bad, I don't want to be a Gorma. Like, you know, Gorma. So he was like, you have a strong neck, and you're a tall, beautiful woman. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's me. I'll be a Gorma like all day long. And if you notice on a lot of the pictures, there is a lot of strength in the neck. You'll even see me playing around where I have a bucket on my head because the women and even the guys, they mean business. When I say they are getting it in the streets and doing it like with stuff like humongous stuff on their head. So in order for you to be able to carry that stuff in your head, that neck has got to be strong. So just from seeing me to get that strong neck category, I was like, oh, I am so Gorma. Then the other part that was kind of cool was when I was talking with some of the ladies while they were cooking, you'll see me back there cooking, which is kind of a funny front because I really don't cook, but I got a good picture of me in Africa cooking. It would be great. So I had to do a photo op. So they were saying that it meant wrinkle neck, right? Because at first I was like, a wrinkle neck? I ain't even really that old, so I didn't want my neck to be wrinkled. Like, that didn't sound great. But what they said was, if you notice, I have lines in my neck. And they said that that was the strength part. And I was like, okay, great. So I didn't even know that these lines in my neck were like good strength marks. So I was all over it. So I really love that fact. And the other thing that it made me think about when we talk about beauty, like, I thought I looked beautiful. Like, the people there were so engaging, so just warm and receptive. It just made me feel like, yeah, this felt like home. It felt like a connection. And even other features, like we all have this stereotype or the stereotypical kind of what is the standard of beauty, right? And it typically doesn't mean that means that's me, especially in a Western society. But going to a place like Africa and knowing that this nose, because this is a black person's nose, like this nose and how wide it is the standard of beauty. It connects me back to my heritage. So I shouldn't want to change that. Even if somebody else looks at it, they don't understand it, they can think it's big, but it's my nose, right? So I don't know where we get these stereotypes or we get these things that make us feel insecure about who we are and what we look like. But when you go back to a place like Africa, you start to look at your brown skin, your kinky hair, your big nose, and you just start to feel beautiful. You understand where it comes from. You understand the connection to it. So I just love, you know, Liberia and Ghana feeling like I'm the bomb. I'll tell you one last thing. We had, at the end, they had a ceremony. Let me see, did I bring the ceremony? There was a ceremony where they actually gave me a cloth. And I might not have put that on here. So the ceremony was at the end. It was all of the preachers got together. And so as a homage and as a respect, they gave and presented the pastor and his wife a garment, a beautiful garment. Now everyone knows me. I'm kind of playful, probably not that, you know, not that really confined. I don't really like a lot of order. I don't really obey and stuff, right? I kind of do my own thing. But what was funny is, so in this really spiritual kind of like, you know, like they're giving them stuff, they didn't get a shout out. They said, well, we also have a Liberian daughter, right? And then they said, we would like to present this to Gorma. And I'm thinking, what? I'm like Liberia's daughter. Like, out of everybody, I'm like the last candidate. Then they give me this beautiful piece of cloth.